Most people wait for courage to show up magically when they need it. They hope that when the moment comes to do the right thing, they'll suddenly find a strength they've never developed. But courage doesn't work that way. Welcome to the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people all over the world about the importance of kindness. And I am obsessed with how we can bring more kindness into our daily lives and restore balance to a deeply unbalanced world. Every episode, I'll give you 3 practical strategies to create a kinder world, and I'll do it in 30 minutes or less. No fluff, just valuable, actionable content that you can implement in your life immediately after listening to help you actively create a kinder world. There's no time to waste. Let's dive in. What's up, my friend? Welcome back to episode 48 of the Kindness Extremist Podcast. I'm your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa. And today we're going to talk about something that separates the people who create real change from the people who just talk about it. The willingness to do hard things. So if you listen to the previous episode, episode 47, about reclaiming our power, this is going to be the perfect companion episode to what you heard last week. To be clear, this episode is not about the toxic hustle culture nonsense that's burning people out left and right. It's about something that's so much deeper and much more important. Building the kind of courage that actually changes the world. And that's what we're hoping to do here, right? Positively change the world? If so, this would be the perfect time to warn you that creating a kinder world is hard as hell. It's exhausting, frustrating, and most of the times it feels like you're swimming upstream while everyone else is floating downstream with a current of cruelty, selfishness, and indifference. Every day you have to choose kindness when the world rewards meanness. You have to choose compassion when everyone else is choosing competition. And you have to choose the difficult conversation when everyone else is choosing comfortable silence. You have to choose to see people's humanity when everyone else is choosing to see them as problems to be solved or obstacles to be removed. That's hard work, fam. And if you're going to do it consistently, if you're going to create lasting change instead of just having good intentions, you need to get comfortable doing hard things. Let me give you an example of what I was talking about. It was about 3 years ago. I was speaking at a conference about workplace kindness. After my presentation, this woman approached me with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Shola, everything you said made perfect sense. I know my workplace is toxic. I know people are being mistreated. I know I should speak up, but every time I get close to saying something, I freeze. I tell myself I'll do it tomorrow or next week or when I have more courage, but tomorrow never comes." Then she said something that haunts me to this day. "I've been promising myself that I'll be brave for 2 years now. 2 years of watching people get hurt while I stay silent. I just don't know why I can't do the right thing." Oh man, I looked at this woman, intelligent, successful, genuinely caring woman, and I realized she wasn't lacking courage. She was lacking practice. She never learned how to do the hard things systematically. So when the moment came to stand up for what was right, she didn't have the emotional muscles to do it. That conversation changed how I think about kindness activism. It's not enough to want a kinder world. It's not enough to believe in doing the right thing. You have to train yourself to do hard things because kindness work is some of the hardest work there is, especially now. Are you looking at what's going on in the world around you? When you choose to have a difficult conversation with someone who's being unkind, that's hard. When you choose to set boundaries with someone you care about, that's hard. When you choose to apologize for something you did wrong, that's hard. When you choose to forgive someone who's hurt you deeply, that's hard. Hell, when you choose to sit with your own uncomfortable emotions instead of numbing them with food, shopping, social media, or booze, that's hard. But here's what's fascinating about this. Your capacity for doing hard things directly correlates with your capacity for creating change. The more comfortable you get with discomfort, the more comfortable you become in making the world better. It's just that simple, but it's not easy. Today, I'm going to give you 3 specific strategies for building your hard thing muscles. Because if you want to be a kindness extremist, if you want to be somebody who actually changes things instead of just complaining about them, you've got to get good at doing hard things. Let's dive into exactly how we can do this. This is going to be hard to hear, but I need to say it. Most of us have become professional discomfort avoiders. Even worse, that avoidance is keeping us weak, stuck, and unable to create the change that we say that we want. Let's be real about what this looks like in practice. We feel the discomfort of sadness, so we reach for a bag of chips and eat until we're numb. We feel the discomfort of loneliness, so we open up Instagram and scroll until our brains are too overstimulated to feel anything real. We feel the discomfort of anger, so we pour ourselves some brown liquor and let the alcohol soften the sharp edges of our frustration. We feel the discomfort of knowing we should speak up about something unjust, so we just distract ourselves with Netflix until the moment passes. We feel the discomfort of needing to have a difficult conversation, so we busy ourselves with work until we convince ourselves that it's not important anymore. Sound familiar? As you can imagine, there's a significant cost to this. If you do it consistently, every time we run from discomfort, we're training ourselves to be weak. And that is not an overstatement. Every time we choose the easy escape over the hard truth, we're building avoidance muscles instead of courage muscles. And when the moment comes that really matters, when someone needs us to stand up for them, when a relationship needs us to be honest, when our values need us to act, we won't have the strength to do it. And that is truly the biggest failure of all. Let me give you a personal example. So over a decade ago, my previous job, I was working with a team where one person, let's call him James, was consistently undermining and belittling a newer team member named Erica. It wasn't overt harassment, but it was constant. Subtle digs about her ideas, dismissive body language when she spoke, condescending explanations of things that she already understood. I saw it happening. I knew it was wrong. I felt that uncomfortable feeling in my gut, though, every time I witnessed it. And you know what I did? I avoided that discomfort. When I felt the urge to speak up, I just tell myself that I was probably overreacting. And besides, it wasn't my business, right? Instead, as a way to self-soothe my discomfort, I distract myself by checking my phone or diving into other work. When I felt the discomfort of being complicit through my silence, I rationalized it by telling myself it wasn't my place to get involved. For months, I watched this pattern continue while I perfected the art of looking the other way, until the day Erica came to me with tears in her eyes and said, "I don't understand why James hates me so much. I've tried everything and nothing works. I'm thinking about quitting." That's when I realized that my discomfort avoidance hadn't just hurt me, it hurt someone I cared about. My inability to sit with that uncomfortable feeling of potential conflict had enabled months of toxic behavior. My weakness in facing hard conversations had contributed to someone else's pain. And this leads me to the first kind of strategy of the episode, the discomfort mapping exercise. Here's how to stop running and start building your tolerance for hard things. Step 1, map your escape routes. This is similar to the strategy that I shared in episode 31 about procrastination. For 1 week, every time you feel uncomfortable, write down what the discomfort is and what you do to avoid it. Be brutally honest. For example, felt anxious about deadline, spent 45 minutes on TikTok, or felt guilty about conflict with my mom, ordered $80 worth of stuff online, or felt overwhelmed by the fact that the current state of the world is a dumpster fire, ate an entire sleeve of cookies. I don't care what it is, just write it down. Step 2, sit with it for 60 seconds. Before you reach for your usual escape or your vice, commit to sitting with the discomfort for 60 seconds. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to change it. Just observe it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice what thoughts come up. Notice the urge to run. This may sound easy, but I promise you, fam, it is way harder than it sounds, especially if you're the type to avoid discomfort. Step 3, choose one different response. After 60 seconds, you can still choose your usual escape if that's how you get down, but first choose one small different action. If you usually scroll when you're lonely, text one real person. If you usually shop when you're anxious, do 5 minutes of deep breathing. If you usually avoid difficult conversations, write down what you'd want to say, and no, you don't have to send it to the person. I've been doing this exercise for a little while now, and it completely changed my relationship with discomfort. Instead of seeing uncomfortable feelings as problems to be solved, I started seeing them as information to be processed. That anxiety I felt about speaking up, it wasn't a signal to run. It was a signal that something important was happening that required my attention. That guilt that I felt about staying silent, it wasn't my cue to numb those feelings. It was my conscience telling me that I wasn't living according to my values. When I stopped running from discomfort and started listening to it, I found the courage to have the conversation that I should have had months earlier. I spoke to James directly about his behavior toward Erica. It was uncomfortable as hell, but it was also necessary. And you know what? It worked. Not perfectly, not immediately, but it actually made a positive difference. Just remember this. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It's showing you where growth needs to happen. It's pointing you toward the hard things that will make you stronger and more capable of creating sustainable change. When you run from discomfort, you're not just avoiding pain, you're avoiding the exact experiences that would build your courage and increase your capacity to do the right thing when it matters. The people who create real change aren't the ones who never feel uncomfortable. They're the ones who have learned to sit with discomfort long enough to hear what it's trying to teach them and then act on that information instead of running from it. For the second strategy, we need to completely flip how you think about difficult situations. Instead of seeing hard things as problems to be avoided, you need to start seeing them as opportunities to become the person you want to be. Most people look at difficult situations and think, this is awful. How can I get out of this as quickly as possible? But people who create real change look at the same situations and think, this is exactly what I need to grow stronger. How can I use this to become more courageous? Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. So last year, my daughter came home from school devastated because she witnessed some girls gossiping about her friend who wasn't present to defend herself. She said, Dad, I wanted to say something, but I didn't want them to turn on me too. Now I feel terrible because I didn't speak up. Now, as her dad, I could have comforted her by telling her that it wasn't her responsibility or that she shouldn't put herself at risk or that these things happen and there's not much she could do. However, if you listen to episode 44 of this podcast about raising kind kids, you already know that I wouldn't do that. So instead, I saw this as a perfect opportunity to help her reframe hard things. I said, baby girl, the fact that you're feeling terrible is actually a good thing. I'd be more concerned if you didn't feel terrible. It's a sign that you care and that you know that you have the power to make a positive difference. Then I asked her, if this exact situation happened again tomorrow, what would you do differently? She thought and she said, I try to change the subject or I just say nice things about my friend. Perfect, I said. So now you have a plan. This hard situation gave you the practice that you needed to figure out who you want to be and how you want to show up. Without this difficult situation, you wouldn't have had that clarity. That's the power of this. And this leads me to the second kind of strategy of the episode, the 3 questions technique. Here's how you transform your relationship with difficulty. Every time you encounter a hard situation, ask yourself these 3 questions. 1, what strength is this situation asking me to develop? 2, who do I have the opportunity to become through this challenge? And 3, how is this difficulty preparing me for future moments where someone will need my courage? Let me give you a personal example. A few months ago, I had to fire someone who I had a business relationship with. It's something that I absolutely hate doing. Instead of just seeing it as an awful task I had to endure, I used these questions to reframe it. 1, what strength is this asking me to develop? Answer, the courage to have difficult conversation with kindness and directness. 2, who do I have the opportunity to become? Answer, a person who respects people enough to tell them the truth even when it's hard. And 3, how is this preparing me for the future? Answer, every time I practice difficult conversations, I get better at them, which means I can help more people in the long run. That reframe completely changed how I approached the conversation. Instead of dreading it, I prepared for it like an athlete preparing for competition. I thought about how to be kind while being clear, how to be supportive while being firm, how to honor their dignity while addressing the reality of the situation. The conversation was still hard, but it wasn't something that I was enduring. It was something that I was learning from. And because I approached it as growth instead of punishment, I was able to show up with more presence, more kindness, and more effectiveness. Let me give you another way to think about this. So think about physical strength training for a minute. When you lift weights, you're literally creating tiny tears in your muscle fibers. Those tears feel uncomfortable. They create soreness, fatigue, and temporary weakness. But that discomfort is exactly what signals to your muscles to rebuild them stronger than before. Emotional and moral strength work the exact same way. Every time you choose the hard thing, every difficult conversation, the unpopular stand you take, the uncomfortable truth, you're creating small tears in your comfort zone that allow your courage to rebuild stronger. Okay, I want to keep this metaphor going and pushing it as far as they can until it breaks. People who avoid hard things stay emotionally weak for the same reason that people who avoid the gym stay physically weak. They never create the conditions necessary for growth. But when you reframe hard things as strength training for your soul, everything changes. That difficult conversation with your toxic family member isn't just an unpleasant task, it's courage boot camp. That decision to speak up about injustice at work isn't just a risk, it's integrity training. That choice to sit with your sadness instead of numbing it isn't just uncomfortable, it's emotional resilience practice. I want to be clear about something. This doesn't mean seeking out unnecessary hardship or being masochistic about difficulty. That's weird, okay? This means recognizing that hard things are inevitable, and when they show up, because they will, you have a choice about how to relate to them. You can see them as obstacles that prove that life is against you, or you can see them as opportunities that prove that your life is preparing you for something bigger. Hopefully you don't need me to tell you this, but the people who choose to change the world consistently choose the second option. Hey, fellow kindness extremists, it's me, Shola. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, if you're mowing what I'm growing, if you're smelling what I'm stepping in. Okay, I'll stop. If you're enjoying what you're listening to so far, I would love it if you would take a moment to hit the subscribe button and leave a rating and a review. Those incredibly kind acts go so far in helping me to reach as many people as possible who will join the movement to actively create a kinder world. I appreciate you so much, my friend. Okay, let's get back to the episode. For the third strategy, I actually already hinted at it just now in part 2 of this episode. We need to talk about building courage like athletes build strength. systematically, progressively, and with intentional practice. Most people wait for courage to show up magically when they need it. They hope that when the moment comes to do the right thing, they'll suddenly find a strength they've never developed. But courage doesn't work that way. Courage is a skill that gets stronger with practice and weaker with neglect. If you want to be someone who can stand up for others, you need to practice standing up for yourself. If you want to be someone who can have difficult conversations when relationships are on the line, you need to practice having difficult conversations when the stakes are lower. This is what I call systematic courage building, and it's based on the same principle that makes athletes stronger over time: progressive overload. In physical training, progressive overload means gradually increasing the weight, frequency, or intensity of your workouts so your muscles continuously adapt and grow stronger. In courage training, it's kind of the same thing, right? It means gradually increasing the difficulty of hard things you're willing to do so your bravery muscles continue to develop. Let me share how this worked in my own life. So after the James and Erica situation I mentioned earlier in this episode, I realized I needed to systematically build my courage for workplace interventions. I couldn't just hope I'd be braver next time. I needed to train for it. I did so by using the third kind of strategy of the episode, the progressive overload system. Here's how to build systematic courage, and like most things in life, there are levels to this stuff. So level 1, personal courage, low stakes. Start with hard things that only affect you. Practice saying no to invitations you don't want to accept. Practice asking for things you need instead of hinting. Practice expressing your real opinion in low-risk situations. For example, that could be telling your barber that you didn't like how he cut your hair instead of just accepting it and tipping him anyway. Why in the hell, actually, come to think of it, am I even talking about haircuts and barbers when I'm bald and haven't used a barber in literally 40 years? It's like just the first example that came to my head. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that gently checking your barber may be small stakes, but it will require you to prioritize your needs over avoiding potential awkwardness. Level 2, relational courage, medium stakes. Move to the hard things that affect your relationships but aren't life-changing. Practice having honest conversations with friends about things that bother you. Practice setting boundaries with family members. Practice apologizing when you've done something wrong. For example, you could practice this by finally telling your brother that his constant sarcasm actually hurts your feelings, even though it's possible that he'll make fun of you for being too sensitive. Air quotes. And level 3, social courage, the high stakes. Now tackle the hard things that affect your broader community or your workplace. Practice speaking up about unfairness when you see it. Practice standing with people who are being mistreated. Practice challenging systems or behaviors that cause harm. Personally speaking, this is where I finally developed the courage to address workplace toxicity consistently. But I only got there because I'd practiced on smaller things first. Now, let's put this all together with what I'm going to call the weekly courage challenge. Every week, intentionally choose one thing that's slightly outside of your comfort zone. And no, you don't have to try to be a hero overnight. Just consistently do things that require a little more bravery than you're comfortable with. Week 1 might be speaking up in a meeting when you usually stay quiet. Week 2 might be disagreeing with someone who you usually just nod along with. Week 3 might be initiating a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. You get where I'm going with this. The key is consistency and progression. Each hard thing you do makes the next hard thing slightly easier. Each time you choose courage over comfort, you're building the strength you'll need when the stakes are higher. But here is what's crucial about this. You can't wait until you feel ready, because that's not how courage works. You build courage by acting courageously before you feel courageous. You develop the strength by using muscles you don't think you have yet. It is wild how powerful this particular strategy is. I've been doing systematic courage building for about 3 years now, and it's completely transformed my ability to create change. I can now have conversations that would have paralyzed me before. I can take stands that would have terrified me previously. I can advocate for people in ways that I never thought possible, not because I became a different person. Actually, scratch that. Maybe I have become a different person. And if so, it's because I systematically built the courage muscles through consistent practice. And here's the coolest part about all this. When you build systematic courage, you don't just become more capable of doing hard things. You become someone who's genuinely excited by doing them. You start seeing difficult situations as opportunities to use your strength instead of threats to your comfort. Woo, buddy. Okay, we just covered 3 strategies for building the courage that creates real change. First, stop running from your discomfort. Map your escape routes. Sit with uncomfortable feelings for 60 seconds before numbing them and choose one different response. Remember, your discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It's showing you where you need to go stronger. Second, reframe the hard thing from an obstacle to an opportunity. Use the 3 questions technique and adopt a strength training mindset where hard things aren't punishments. They're exactly what your soul needs to become stronger. Third, build systematic courage through progressive overload. Start with personal courage, then move to relational courage, and then social courage. Take weekly courage challenges that push you outside of your comfort zone. Here's what I'm hoping you'll walk away from in this episode. Creating a kinder world is freaking exhausting work. It requires choosing difficulty when everyone else chooses ease, but it's also the most important work there is, especially considering that the world is burning as you're listening to the sound of my voice. There's a famous quote that says, quote, "Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life," end quote. When you consistently choose the easy thing like avoiding conflict or staying silent, your life actually gets harder. You lose self-respect and become complicit in the things that violate your values. However, when you consistently choose the hard thing, like speaking up or setting boundaries, your life becomes easier because you become more aligned with your values. You develop unshakable self-respect and become someone that others can count on. Here's your homework, fam. Identify one hard thing that you've been avoiding. Don't wait until you feel ready because you will never feel ready. Courage is never comfortable. And if it is, I'd argue that the thing that you're doing probably doesn't require courage in the first place. And if you think of it, the fact that courage is uncomfortable is exactly why doing hard things transforms you. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you're not just changing your own life, you're giving everyone around you the permission to be braver too. The world is waiting for you to do the hard thing. Not someday, not tomorrow, right now. This is your host, Shola Richards, aka Brother Teresa, and you now know that kindness can't be weak because you just experienced the strength of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Until next time, my friend, the journey to a kinder world continues. Thank you for listening to the Kindness Extremist podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I have one favor to ask of you. If you could kindly hit the subscribe button, leave a rating and a review, not only would that be incredibly kind, but by doing so, you're actively playing a role in growing this movement and ideally getting us one step closer to creating a kinder world. I hope to see you next week for another episode of the Kindness Extremist podcast. Bye for now.